Brad's reaction, because he wasn't with us yesterday.
No,
Your
that's a
reaction
good
when you
point.
heard
Yeah.
the news.
Well, first let me say this. I'm glad that the NFL and NFLPA and Deshaun Watson's team actually came to a conclusion.
That they settled it. And
Yeah,
it wasn't
well,
decided
here,
by
let me,
Peter
and
Harvey.
I'll just summarize it like this. You know, it's like being in the streets, being in the hood. Everybody talking stuff. I'm
Right.
gonna do this to you. I can do this to you. And at the end of the day, both of them had their he's all over the board. Had their fingers on the nuclear button, Jay.
Yeah.
That's what they had their fingers on the nuclear button.
They did. Yeah.
And
We're hiding under
well,
desks.
when you get there, you can talk all that stuff you want to. You have the audacity or guts to push the button.
It's a game of chicken. Can you not blink?
Well, because if you push the button, there's some repercussions that happen.
Yeah.
So now
Long
it's
term.
long term, and once you push the button, you can't unpush the button.
That's a great point.
That's where it was.
Yeah.
And so I think for all of us, and I'll speak to everything because everybody has a side in it. The women that are involved in it have a side in it.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson has a side in it, and all of us fans have a side in it. And from the fan side, I think we just wanted it to be done, right? We just wanted it to be
Absolutely.
done, right, and figure
Yeah,
out what it is.
nobody was rooting for this thing to drag on to
Right,
the
right,
next
right.
stage.
No.
Nobody.
And so to me, I was just glad that they got to.
Are you okay with the 11 games, $5 million?
I think it was a fair, even ground.
Like a compromise.
Yeah, because I think the NFL wanted games. Watson wanted less games. The league wanted more games. So they found a place to settle. And I said this earlier off the stage. I want everybody to know this. I think returning to Houston was important to Deshaun Watson.
You mean that his first game back is in Houston?
I think it's very important to him because I think it's just a human being. You look sometimes when things go awry, you try to figure out where it happened at, right?
Right.
And this is just me. This is the vibe I get off him. He seems like a nice kid, right?
By all accounts,
He seems like a nice kid, right?
Right.
And sometimes I tell people this, that the moment is too big for you because I alluded to it before. He was not surrounded by people that should have been surrounded. He was in the word they say, he was in deep doo-doo. That's where he was, right? And he did not know it.
How did you think he performed in the comment section yesterday?
Well, first of all, I think what he wanted to do was, because I think he wants to get behind him. I think he wants this
Clearly,
behind
his
him.
biggest talking point yesterday,
He
he
wants
said
this
it 12
behind-
times.
he wants this
I'm
behind
ready to
him.
move on with my
Right.
career. I'm
And
ready
he
to
wants
move on
to,
with
he
my
wants
life.
to be able to show people that I'm a person that is worthy, right?
Right.
Even though these actions may not have been worthy. I want to show you that, right? But his problem is he's still embroiled in a legal dispute in Houston, in Texas,
case.
right?
One civil case still pending.
Right, and so he can't say certain things, right? And so I said this.
Well, you know what? Let me drill down on that. We had an attorney on the show yesterday at Channel 3 at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And she believed that his 2 public apologies hurts him
Yes, they do.
in that civil standing.
Because
And that's a
you
no-brainer.
cannot
But
here.
do you think now that he settles that and just is prepared to write a bigger check to really be done with this?
He probably should.
Well, here, let me tell you, that case is going to get settled. It's not going to go all the way through, right?
In part because his 2 public apologies,
I just think
or
that I think
he just
that
wants
I
it
think
over?
here because I think he wants done. I got to imagine the woman that's involved wants it done,
Right.
But they want some fairness in it. But I will say this: in this, you cannot straddle the fence. He shouldn't have been making any statements about
Yeah.
anything.
The attorney yesterday said the same thing. She was
Anything.
very surprised to hear those words come out of his mouth.
I don't care what you feel like, right? Because it's what did I tell you earlier, boy? It's baked in already.
That's right.
The people who are against him, they're against
And
him.
Brad,
Nobody's
there's-
changing
in-
their
They're
mind.
not changing their mind.
We've had roughly 24 hours now to sort of digest the reaction to it. And I know sometimes we have to be careful doing that because social media is not a representation of society by any means. However, in listening to pundits on both sides, from the NFL side and the NFLPA side yesterday, and a lot of the public reaction, even though everybody said there was this need for him to apologize, they think that came from the league. The league was demanding that there was some sort of public remorse shown. So he probably had to do that so we could get to this stage. But the overwhelming consensus, and guys, chime in if I'm mischaracterizing what you've seen and read. The overwhelming consensus from what I've read, seen, and heard from folks that are really close to this story was he actually made things worse with his apology.
Because he's trying to serve up a cake for 10 people. You're not going to serve up this one slice for 10 people. A little bit for you, Jay. A little bit for
Right.
G.
Yeah, you can't feed them all.
Nah, everybody
He's
not
trying
gonna eat
to
here.
walk this
Right.
fine line.
You cannot
it
walk
didn't work. He's clearly not a comfortable talker.
Right.
Right. He's clearly he doesn't love doing press conference, especially about like if he's talking football, it's probably not whatever. But clearly, other things he's not that comfortable. We've seen it enough times.
I think now they should keep him away from the
and
microphone.
just like that's it.
For a
I'm
while.
only talking football. That's it.
McNuggets has his hand up, guys. Let's see what he wants.
So we just want to let you all know throughout the day we got a bunch of questions that we came up with yesterday. And,
Right.
and this leads right to the first question that I wanted to ask today. Let's take tag board, Steve. This is from Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio yesterday. Stevie could punch tag board full. He says, sometimes the best PR strategy is silence. The Browns would have been way better off today if they simply deferred to the league's formal announcement. So my question
I
to you,
agree with that.
my questions to you guys is,
But there still would have been plenty of people. No, as G said yesterday, and he's right. No matter what they did, there would have been a segment of the population.
no,
happy.
I agree, but let me ask the question this way.
Okay.
Do you think today we will look at the situation, Watson and the Browns as a whole, including the Haslams, differently had they not talked? There would have been criticism either way, but how differently would
I'd
we look at
rather
the
the
situation?
criticism be they're not saying anything than the criticism be they said the wrong things. Jimmy took a lot of darts yesterday too. A lot of darts. And so did D.
Let me tell you something. You're not going to win in this, right?
No.
No. But you,
So
to your
it's
point,
a juxtaposition, saying nothing and saying the wrong
You have
thing.
to say something, but it better be. They were out there
They were
It was her freestyle. It was a freestyle hip hop show yesterday.
I have a buddy who was
And
in a
one
PR
mixtape.
department.
There was
That's
an
right.
and one mixtape.
By the way,
Pass the mic.
By the
Pass
way,
the mic night.
By the way, we've talked about the fact that Deshaun Watson's not a great speaker. He's not comfortable.
Neither is Jimmy.
Jimmy's terrible.
Yeah.
He always
So,
says the wrong thing. Always.
I had
for
a buddy
years.
of who's leads a PR staff of an NFL team.
Yeah.
And I've known him for years, and we were texting throughout the day. And one of the things he said was, "What's going on over there?" It almost seems as if they threw Deshaun Watson out there with no prep.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the moment was clearly too big for him, but as an organization, you know who you have. You know that because you've trotted him out twice already. Mm-hmm. You know that there's going to be slip-ups. And look, this is not a dig on Deshaun Watson.
No.
Asking him to do what he had to do yesterday, 99.99999% of America will never be forced to have to do that. I always think of Tiger Woods when he had to go in front of those cameras and talk about his domestic dispute, which had nothing to do with the sport of golf. And so
Tiger's a much better talker than Watson.
a much better and had more experience and all
Right.
that. I don't want this to sound demeaning to Deshaun. Some people are built for that and some people aren't.
Well,
and he's built to play football. I don't blame him. The organization knows who he is, and this is the point my buddy made. They know what they've got there. Why in the world did they roll him out there
screwed
with
it up.
no protection?
They might have got they might have got eviscerated for it, but sometimes when you're communicating with people, you got to be stern. You got to be a little forceful, right? When I would have came out, I would have had my counsel with me posted. Now, people say, well, why can't you do it yourself? Don't worry about why I can't do it myself. My counsel's here. You going to ask me a question, I'm going to look at him, he going to tell me how I'm going to answer, right? I'm going to make sure I protect myself from at least this thing being blown out of proportion.
What do you guys think about that, the optics of that, having a lawyer stand
Well,
next
the
to you?
optics.
It's a case going on. Still a case.
Gee, I know what you're talking about. The optics are horrible.
Horrible.
They're horrible.
Horrible. Not
They're horrible.
Jewish, to your point.
They're horrible.
I think they
just
should
say
have
this.
told him, you will not answer any questions pertaining to the case. And that also means you can't
Right.
You can't say
Make your statement.
You're sorry.
Right.
I just don't know how that works.
Yes.
Let me go back to what I was just about to say, right? So the optics of it are horrible. The second thing is, Deshaun Watson is what, 25, 26?
26.
26 years old. He's a baby. He was in shark-infested waters. You're not swimming ashore here. Because when you go left, the left shark gonna get you. Go right, the right shark gonna.
And you could hear it in the tone of the media.
I said, you're not. No.
But here's the
one thing that he could have said was, and the one thing he should have said, and they should have prepped him. That's why I told you I was angry.
They should have done the presser today.
I wasn't angry at the fact. I wasn't angry at the fact that the stuff that's swirling around Deshaun Watson. That's another story. They basically walked him out on a plank.
That's what
he was
my buddy
out.
said.
He was out there on an island by
Where
himself.
was his
And
cover?
I'm a pro. I've been at this thing. I know how it goes.
You're right.
You're not gonna fool me on this thing. Right? I was like, he had nobody protecting his front,
So, to
his
your
back.
point, Bull,
where's the organization at? Where's the NFL?
And a lot of people yesterday were asking that question.
Yeah.
But Bull, to your point,
Yeah.
and I think you're dead on. A 24-hour cool down would have been so much better.
No doubt.
And here's what you say to stave the Sharks, to keep the Wolves at bay. You just simply tell them, we've got an organized practice scheduled with another team. So there's another team now that is impacted by our schedule. We don't want to lose those valuable joint practice reps.
Plus, we need to go through the details of all the
and you know
whatever.
What? You're right, because there was one point where they asked him, do you know when you can be back in the building?
Right.
I don't know. They're working out those details right now. So the cover is for the team, this is brand new to us.
Right.
We have a joint practice scheduled with another team that traveled.
We'll make them
to come
available
here
at this
play.
time.
Yeah.
We're gonna check today off the calendar. We're going to dot some of the I's and cross the T's from the actual decision and the agreement.
Right.
We're going to find out when we can have him back in the building. Deshaun's going to talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
Nobody would have been up in arms over that.
I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't even had him out there tomorrow, the next day.
Let me tell you what he needed.
No.
But you want to put it behind you, too.
Let me tell you what I was also surprised and angry at. This had spiraled out of control. It was so big above him, right? My first question was, well, where's the crisis management team at?
I know.
He got more money than anybody. The Browns got more money. Nobody. There's no crisis management team here.
Yeah.
Because
even if it wasn't the Browns providing that service, he could have gone outside and hired
This is
an
so
independent
far
PR firm.
above him, his own internal team, and people just trying to. Because what they would end up doing, Bull, was like the boy with the finger in the dike.
Oh yeah,
that's all they were doing.
Yeah,
plug
I'll tell you, Brad, I'm plug this one. I'm gonna plug this one.
This may be unfair to say because I don't know the intricacy of all the relationships here. But if I'm Watson, I have to reevaluate all the people in my life, like my manager, my agent, because they have not helped me here.
Well,
or at least in the public perspective,
let me say this
they have
too.
not.
He probably didn't help himself either.
That's true.
Because when you're in it,
but Brad,
when you're in it, you don't know that you're in it.
To the point that what you just said, he's 26. He may have made the miscalculation that the people that he's currently with could navigate him through this space.
Yep.
I think to your point, Bull, he's probably reevaluating those relationships
no doubt.
now.
Has to.
But more importantly, and again, I still say it's incumbent on the Browns to prepare this kid for what he's
The Browns
facing.
failed him.
And
no doubt.
I don't feel that he was prepared. And I don't know that, I don't know how much they ever could have really, truly gotten him ready for this. It was clear. What really was disappointing to me was it was clear in their conversations beforehand, they gave him 4 buzzwords.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Which he used way too much. I want to move on with my career. I want to move on with my life.
Right.
Whenever he didn't know what to say,
he went back to that.
I want to move on with my career. I want to move on with my life. Standing on my innocence. So I've heard from a lot of people yesterday that really did not like those words.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't. And look, we still have to take into account the possibility, and I want to drive this point home very, very strongly today. I made the point yesterday about the Manti Te'o and how history has completely revised what actually happened. It took 20 years, 15 years, but now I think the general public finally realizes that this kid wasn't a liar.
Yeah.
He wasn't a sleaze guy who was making stuff up. He got fooled.
Right.
And he was young and naive, and now that the story's being told, this could happen 3 or 4 years from now. We could watch a documentary on all of this.
Right.
I've been told by a couple of people that are covering this story and have been really deep in the woods that there are a lot of things that we do not know.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that's the case.
But, Jay, the good news, before we go to Mike to the next question real quick, is it is over. It may be bad PR. He may have looked bad yesterday. Everybody's saber-rattling and pearl-clutching and writing articles.
Right.
But none of that matters.
It doesn't.
Because he's going to play
We
week
know
12.
what it is now. So you
That's
know
right.
what?
Yeah.
And this is the good thing about it being over. A lot of that hand-wringing that was going on,
Yeah.
a lot of the journalists that were trying to maybe virtue signal by saying, how could this be all it gets?
Yeah.
They were actually advocating for a punishment. Punishment's out now. So hold your pearls.
Yeah, that's it.
Get off your high horse.
Move
it's
on.
over.
Yeah.
And we all know what it is, and we all are going to live with it.
That's right.
And
No.
we'll see him in week 12.
Jay, but let me tell you something. It's over for the majority of the part that we've been discussing. It's still going to be ongoing. There has to be a strategy going forward. He has nobody because wherever he goes.
But he's no longer going to answer questions.
No.
about it.
No, but
Don't
the
answer.
But the anvil over his head is gone.
That's
gone.
What we got,
I'm just saying. Let me just finish this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this, right? He needs help here.
He does.
He needs help here.
Yes.
Right.
That's
and
correct.
it's incumbent upon the organization that he works for and the NFL Players Association that he pays dues to see
Brad,
that he needs help.
A question just popped into my mind, McNuggets. Hold on 1 second, because I think Brad is going to give us fascinating insight here. You've been involved in scandal, not yourself.
Yeah.
Players on teams that you've played
Yeah.
for. I've always been interested in the balancing act that goes on, and I've heard wildly differing numbers. In your experience, who is driving the bus on those individual scandals? Is it the player's individual team? Let's just use Dennis Rodman, for example.
Right.
Is it Rodman's agent, his people, his PR staff, and Dennis that are making those key decisions? Or is it the Bulls?
So in the case of, I'll give you two different scenarios. Rodman and the Pistons. It was the Pistons, right? When Rodman got to the Bulls, it was Dennis and his team. But again, it goes to this, Jay. Your knowledge and experience. When he was at the Pistons, he knew nothing about this sharkish
His
world.
first scandal was with the Pistons
Right. So it was
in the parking garage.
Shocking world, right? And then when he got to Chicago, he had made a couple other stops before Chicago.
Right.
And he became better. You surround yourself with better people.
Do you think there's a right way or a wrong way in terms of whether the team is making those key decisions or the player? I imagine there were major conversations between Watson's team and the Browns as to how they were going to navigate these
It depends on the
waters.
varying interests here, because some people have an interest in only themselves. Some people have an interest as you as a human being, right?
Right.
They see value in you as a human being, and they're like, let me help you.
So if Watson's team felt that the Browns had only their best interest in mind, they might be pulling harder on the rope.
I think there's a give and pull between, because I think that Watson had to feel like the only people standing up for Watson was Jimmy and Gene.
The Haslams were standing up for him. Mikey, what do you got?
Man, that was a tasty subject, almost as tasty as the Built Bar I had this morning as I came to work. Man, I was hungry and I needed something on the run. I grabbed
What
the Built
flavor?
Bar. I got the chocolate dough chunk today.
Cookie dough.
Delicious. No, this is cookie dough chunk. You're right. Sorry,
yeah.
cookie dough chunk.
What is this?
I know
Only
that.
116 calories, 15 grams of
we got
protein.
no
I was
Built
full.
Bar.
I didn't need a second one. Small but delicious. If you haven't, check out Built Bar. And here's the best part. You can use code LOCKDOWN15 for 15% off your entire order at Built.com. That's
There
code
he goes.
LOCKDOWN15.
How do you spell that? Built.com.
BUILT.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because some of those companies use Built BILT.
LT, right.
And
By the way,
you want to drive that home.
By the way, Sabrina Sin just followed me on Twitter. I'm getting followed by porn bots all of a
Oh,
sudden.
okay, great.
Thought you'd all like to know that.
Nice.
All right,
here's
what's the
here's my
question?
next question,
Go ahead.
and this does lead into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There are
Unlike the porn
52
bots.
other players, or there will be 52 other players on the Browns roster on opening day.
Okay.
Do you think they were demoralized or encouraged by the news that came out yesterday?
Oh, I think they were encouraged, 100%.
Hey, listen.
I think
Because
there's probably a mix, don't you?
no, because I don't think there is I can't imagine there was a player on that team that thought he'd be suspended for less than 11 games heading into yesterday.
Really?
I doubt it.
Somebody reached out to me and said that the close to Watson and close to the team said when they saw 11, they started texting, "Hey, we can hold it down.
Yeah.
We can hold it down for
Exactly.
11.
Yeah.
We got 11. Like it was
Better than the worst case.
It's better than that. But they saying that we can hold it down. Jacoby can get 6 and 5, and that's the thought process. What they saying 6
Right.
and 5 with Jacoby
Yeah.
puts him in a potential that he can come back and do
We
something.
talked about that yesterday, Brad. Do you have a thought as to where they'll be when Watson takes the field and whether or not he can get them into the playoffs wherever they are?
Let me tell you, I think Jacoby Brissett is going to have them in a tremendous position. I think, because it's not just on him. They have other weapons.
Right.
As long as Stefanski deploys his weapons, right, they're going to be okay. I will say this, though. I'll get to your point about the team, right? The team is a microcosm of society. There were people on his team, I can tell you this, that probably wanted him to get hammered, right? And there were some other people on the other end of the spectrum like, no, I need you to fight the man on this one because this is
Right.
beyond this. This is about the man. We're going to settle that.
Yeah.
So they went in between. And at the end of the day, it really just came down to this, Jay. Everybody wanted to be behind them.
That's right.
Everybody.
Sure.
And nobody's completely satisfied,
And I
which
think
means
from
it's
that
a good
end,
resolution.
they all exhaled
Yeah.
yesterday when
Yes.
they said, okay, at least we know what we're up against this year. And I think to your point, G. Bush, if it was a season-long suspension, I think for the most part, the playoff hopes would have been dampened.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes.
So this still, like you said, they can hold it down. They got a puncher's chance.
Right.
Who knows where they're going to be in Week 12? It's you can't say that. I will say this: when you look at offensively, I'm curious to know all of your guys' thoughts on this. Take the quarterback position out of it. Do you feel the Browns have more weapons coming into this season offensively than they did last season? And I'll tell you in a second why I asked that question.
Okay.
Bull?
No, they have less.
Okay.
I don't think it's by a ton. By the way, ironically enough, I was doing an interview on VSiN, the gambling network, last night.
Okay.
And they were like raving about the Browns wide receiver core. Like they were really high on David Bell, and
Wow.
they like some. They like.
But in general, you'd say less than.
I'd say a
Brad,
little
what about
less.
You?
Yeah, yeah.
What about you?
I think they got better.
Better. How are they better in the skill? Well, overall,
I think.
with
here,
Treader
so-
gone, with OBJ gone, and with Landry gone,
Well,
how
here.
are they better?
Better because they didn't use OBJ, so it's like not even having OBJ here.
He
right?
was
So-
there, though.
Oh, he
I
was
mean,
there, but they didn't use him. I
Well,
can
but
have,
if
I
he
can have
was here
Jordan,
this
but if
year-
I don't give him no shots, I guess
But if he was
no
here
need to
this
have a
year with
Jordan.
a quarterback that could find him, you would love that.
So the problem is, you talking about last year. I'm talking about what
Right.
we did not have.
And I'm just saying-
So let's say this. The only thing I think they're missing is another because Amari Cooper is better to me than
Jarvis Landry.
Okay.
Yes. But we don't have anybody on the other side. I got some people
Right.
that might be something. I don't
We
know
don't
what
know
they're
what we
gonna
have
be.
yet,
I
yeah.
said, get me somebody
So
else on
you
the other
say
side.
better talent this year. What about you, G. Bush?
I would say when you're looking at it, on paper they have better talent. Last year they got Treader, OBJ. They
Well,
got
I thought you were
Jarvis.
just saying skill positions. If
everybody.
If we're including the offensive line, then it's definitely worse.
Right.
yeah.
I'm saying take the quarterback out of
Yes,
it. So
right,
Baker's
yes,
gone.
yes.
Jacoby's gone.
Right.
The 10 other
So we're
guys
not
that
talking
will
about
take
just
the
skill.
field.
We're just not talking about skill positions.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
okay.
everything. That's
It's
why I said
worse.
you've got
I
no
don't think
Treader,
it's
you've got no
significantly
OBJ.
worse,
I'm with you.
but it's worse.
I think, I don't know what you grade last year's talent. What is it? 84, 88? It's an
Yeah.
arbitrary number. I think this year, maybe it's a 78. I don't think it's as good overall. And that's why, so for me, my concern is you could argue until the cows come home whether you like Jacoby Brissett more than Baker hurt last year when he was 17 touchdowns, 13 picks. You can argue that forever. But for me to feel better, because last year they were a just under 500 team
Right.
with Baker. So it's hard for me to say that with less talent and Jacoby Brissett at the helm now, they're going to be an over 500 team.
Well, let me give you this. Like,
With a really difficult schedule.
Because the person I talked to that's close in the locker room said, look, I know what it looks like on the outside. Jacoby Brissett versus Baker Mayfield. A lot of people are just drilling down on skill set, whether or not he can perform up to that certain level. He said, but let me tell you something. Everybody in the locker room believes Jacoby Brissett is a leader. They look at him. He said, and this caught me off guard. He said, when they have functions, Jacoby Brissett is holding count.
They're not trading for Garoppolo.
He's the guy.
I don't think they are either.
He's the guy at the front of the table. And
Yeah.
he said when they went to the Bahamas or whatever the case may be, Jacoby Brissett was one of the main guys speaking in that whole situation.
Yeah.
So they like
So
him
let me
a lot.
let me tell you
great to
why I agree with you on that. Because here, you've given a young man the fuel for the fire. You have people running around this town saying, "We don't need you. We got to go to San Francisco get this dude, right? This dude here, right? That's all I hear on the radio, or hear on TV. We got to get this dude." No. What you did was just give me fuel for the fire as a player, because I'm gonna show you what I got. I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna show you that I can come in and hold this thing down, and not just hold it down.
Yeah.
So he's motivated.
I can excel.
But here's the important thing. Baker, we've discussed Baker a million times. You know where I stand. He's an average NFL quarterback, in my opinion. But last year, he wasn't an average NFL quarterback. He was a bad NFL quarterback.
He was last year.
Okay? Now, Jacoby Brissett, grand scheme of things, is a below average NFL quarterback, in my opinion.
He's not a one.
He's not a one.
He's a guy that can step in for a one.
Yeah. I mean, are there 32 quarterbacks in the NFL better than Jacoby Brissett? Maybe not. But if not, he's 30th or 31st or 32nd, somewhere between 30 and 35.
I don't know if there's another team he's going to start for.
Maybe Seattle. That's about it.
Maybe.
That's it. But here's an important thing, Mikey, before we go to you. This really matters. Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield thinks he's a star.
He thinks he's Brett Favre.
And he's a guy.
Yeah.
He's a good, solid, average, even if you want to say a little above average quarterback. Jacoby Brissett knows who he is, in my opinion. Now,
and
I don't know him
press
personally.
and make mistakes.
He's not going to try to get the ball downfield or make a crazy play. And thus, he is going to say, look at what the hell I got behind me in the backfield.
Yeah.
I am going to let them do the work because they're awesome and I know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And I think they will be okay because of it. Not
McNuggets?
great, but okay.
McNuggets?
Got one more question before DeQuell hops in
Yeah.
with us, and I want to ask DeQuell this one as well. G, you brought this up yesterday, so I want the other three people to attack this first. G mentioned that now Cleveland might be the villain of the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know
Not might
Cleveland
be.
as well as you guys do.
Yeah.
Is Cleveland and this fan base capable of accepting that role? Because as we've seen with other people, athletes in towns, not every city fan and athlete is capable of taking on that villain personality.
I don't think it's it's
That's
not
not-
in our mind.
it's
It's
not-
not in our
it's
DNA.
No,
It's not-
they're going to have a hard time
No,
with it.
I'm
This will be rough.
always pointing back to.
We're a defensive group.
Now you know,
Very.
No, here. I'm gonna just tell you about
We're
this.
a sensitive
I'm
group
gonna
and a
tell you about
defensive
this-
Very
I'm gonna tell you
defensive.
about this town, right? And so I've been broadcast with the Cavaliers for 13 years, right? And when I was on the other side and just in the league, the people around the league always says, if you're affiliated with Cleveland, this is a bunch of nice people.
Yeah.
They can't do that bad boys thing in Detroit. Because when there was the bad boys,
Yeah, no.
people hated the bad boys.
Hate 'em.
They hate them.
And
But
Detroit
no.
embraced it.
But
too,
if you,
the-
but if
the
you go to
fans.
Detroit today,
Yeah.
it's still Bad Boy City.
Sure.
And
It
because
is.
it was their symbol of the guts in this town. And
Right.
you can't tell me anything about that. They love the Bad Boys like it was nobody's business.
No, they
do.
Now,
The Yankees-
that's not gonna go down here.
Yeah, Yankee fans love being hated. When
do.
I was a kid, you know about this. If you were a fan of Georgetown,
Yeah.
you loved it that
Loved
everybody
it.
hated you.
Loved it.
When the kid in D.C. area, you loved it when you were being hated. This town does not like being hated. Why? We've never really been hated very often. Maybe Albert Bell was hated.
We
I
haven't
don't know.
been hated, but we've been disrespected.
Disrespected,
disrespected.
yes.
There's a difference
There's a
there.
difference.
Big
And I
difference.
think that's why the fan base is so sensitive and defensive.
No doubt.
Because all I ever heard when I was in ESPN's cocoon was how bad Cleveland was. And not just the teams, but the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I was carrying the Cleveland flag through the building, constantly having arguments with
See?
people.
That's it.
And I found myself at some point saying, how did I become the de facto poster boy for a city that doesn't
Right.
need defending? Our city does not need defending. Our city is
not.
made up of hardworking, gritty people. Our sports teams are what they are, not because of our people.
No.
Yeah.
It's because of the ownership that we've had through the
That's-
years. And
you
we
know,
have nothing to do with that.
It's
what we
ignorant,
got?
right? We all take shots at, I make fun of some of the states in the South. People here will make fun of New York or
Yeah.
California or whatever. We all pick on things that are not our thing. And people are ignorant. So they only live in their own cocoon.
I was always saying, have you ever been to Cleveland? Well, no, but then don't throw
Cleveland
shit.
folks hate that, right? We
I
hate
know,
that.
we do.
I told you, I'm only one of a couple on the team. The Bulls are flying into Chicago to play the Bulls are flying to Chicago. The Bulls are flying into Cleveland to play the Cavaliers, right? Why is Charles Oakley and I defending the city of Cleveland on the flight? Why?
Nuggets,
Right.
It always seems to go
It's
that way.
silly.